All right. I got a Bible. And then I got illustrated Psalms. And then I got lots of translations. Having these other translations is a way to hear kind of the crickle crackle of the Psalms. What is it, Rice? Crickle crackle boom. What is it? What's snap crackle pop? Thank you. Snap crackle pop. See how much I forget from the days of my youth. My name is Dr. David Taylor, and I am assistant professor of theology and culture at Fuller Theological Seminary, as well as the director of Brem, Texas. And today I have the privilege to talk about the Psalms. The Psalms are this devotional and liturgical help. And what it helps us to do is to counteract the damaging effects of our primordial sin. So when Adam and Eve sin, their first impulse is to hide. And what the Psalms offer us is help to unhide and to become rehumanized and to feel freedom, to feel open and unafraid, to stand before God without fear, to stand before one another vulnerably without shame, and to encounter the world without any of the secrets that tend to distort or damage our humanity. So what I'd like to do is start by reading an excerpt from Psalm 139, which I think is the paradigmatic text for being open and unafraid before God. All right, this is how Eugene Peterson translates Psalm 139. Yahweh, investigate my life. Get all the facts firsthand. I'm an open book to you. Even from a distance, you know what I'm thinking. You know when I leave and when I get back. I'm never out of your sight. You know everything I'm going to say before I start the first sentence. I look behind me and you're there. Then up ahead, and you're there too. Your reassuring presence coming and going. This is too much, too wonderful. I can't take it all in. One of the fundamental assumptions of the Psalm is that it's not an individual endeavor. It's not primarily written for solitary human beings to read in their solitary spaces. You read it by yourself, of course, but it's fundamentally a communal book, and we would discern the meaning and live into the meaning and live out the meaning together. I think the other interesting thing was helpful for me when I started reading the Psalms more carefully was that they're arranged in these 5 parts. And what does 5 books of something make you think of? It makes you think of the first 5 books of the Bible. And scholars would say that was on purpose, as if to say to the reader, to the worshiper, the prayer, in the same way that we have the Torah, the law of Moses, which is to be read and taught and learned and memorized. So we have a sung version of the law of the Lord. And you have lots of law of the Lord language throughout the Psalms. But it's something that we not only learn sort of in our cognitive and, memory faculties of our humanity. We're to sing them. We're to feel them in our bodies. We're to feel them as we say them out loud to one another in this call and response. Call and response is not just one another. We're calling and responding with God. God's talking, we're responding. We're calling and responding with all of creation. And, well, it's for good reason that the church for 2,000 years has considered this its chief hymnal. It's the womb of the church's music. Some have called it, Martin Luther called it the little Bible. He said, if you want to learn everything about everything that you would need to learn about the Bible, go to the little Bible. The Psalter Athanasius called it a mirror of the soul. John Calvin called it an anatomy of the soul, because you would find in the Psalms everything that you would also find inside this warehouse of thoughts and feelings and desires and impulses and experiences. It's all there laid out in the Psalms. And so for 2,000 years, the church has found it to be an immensely helpful resource, a prayer book, hymn book, aid to know and love God, to know what it means to be human, to know what it means to love our neighbors. the Psalms are awash in enemy language, awash in enemy language. It's the language that most of us avoid reading or preaching about, but it's there, and I think it's there for a good reason. And I think for Christians, it's not a matter of running in the opposite direction or, shutting our eyes and ears off to it, or doing an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and a fist for a fist and a verbal insult for a verbal insult. It's actually discovering how we can name our experience of enemies and pray these things faithfully. And so the Psalms show us how to pray about enemies in a faithful way. So in a sense, they're not denying reality. They're actually plunging us more deeply into reality and saying reality is brutal and brutish. And there are forces in the world, not just human, but otherwise, that we experience in enemy-like ways that would seek our harm, that would seek our death. And that evokes in us this visceral reaction, which you could say is God-given visceral reaction. So the Psalms are inviting us to deal with all kinds of difficult things, but things that are so common to us, these experiences of sadness, experiences of anger. And so you could say it's, Psalms of lament and curse Psalms, but I find it more helpful just to talk in very normal terms, Christian human terms. That is, we have joy, and those are good, and we want to celebrate and name those and pray those. But the Psalms also say, hey, look, you got a rash of sadnesses. Why? Because you live in a broken world, and you're a broken creature, and I'm a broken creature. And like my counselor told me many years ago, all of reality, all human history can be explained by sad, mad, bad. You get hurt, it makes you sad. If it hurts really badly, it makes you mad. And then you get to make a decision whether you go to bad. And I think the Psalms are rescuing us from going to this place. It's like a little rescue mission, not by denying these realities and not even by denying us the possibility of saying these things out loud, but to say them out loud in the face of God, the one who can handle all of it, and in the company of the people of God who would bear it with us. I commend them to you, the Psalms, the Psalter, as a gift that God has given to his people, originally the people of Israel, and then to us, the people who have bound themselves to Jesus himself, who made repeated use of the Psalms. You see the Psalms show up at the very beginning in the Gospel of Luke. Inevitably, when Jesus finds himself in trouble, he accesses the Psalms by memory. Why? Because he had inhabited these prayers since childhood. They are just part of the furniture of his memory bank. So whenever he was in trouble with the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, the Sadducees, his disciples, Satan, he accessed the Psalms. On the cross, he accesses the Psalms. At the very end, before he is ascended, he says that everything is that is written about him in the law, the prophets, and the Psalms, everything's written there. It's fulfilled in him. The Psalms are fulfilled in him. And so he bequeaths the Psalms to the early church, and the first Holy Spirit-inspired sermon is from the Psalms. And you see it played out all throughout Paul's epistles, and to the very end, you cannot understand the book of Revelation if you don't understand the Psalms. A gift to the people of God, to the early church, to the church throughout centuries, a gift to me, a gift to you. And that is all she wrote.